Good evening. Hello. Welcome. Byrdie here with Redbyrd Designs, and I am doing a Christmas in July painting. I figured I'd better do something in regards to Christmas because I see it everywhere. Christmas in July, Christmas in July. Is anyone doing any Christmas shopping in July? Okay, let me grab my phone so I can see comments. If you're able to hop on and watch or paint along, let me know in the comments. Say hi. There I am. And as a small business, whoa. That is super loud. Maybe that's just my phone. There I am. And as a small okay. I think I got it. I had my volume super high. And let me see if I can see people coming on. I think so. I think we're okay. Let me check my volume here. Turn it down just a smidge. And I'm not seeing anything yet. But anyways, welcome. We are going to do a quick palette knife painting tonight with the Christmas trees. I love painting Christmas trees with a palette knife. It's so imperfect with a palette knife, which then just makes that Christmas tree even that more real to me, I guess. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of palette knife painting tonight. If you would like the tracer for this, although it's kind of hard to do a tracer for palette knife, but you could also follow along with just a brush. The tracers are located in the Fun and Flourish group, so we'd love to have you over there. And that's also where we can post pictures. It's in a private setting, and we can encourage one another in our paintings too. So like I was saying, as a small business owner, I so appreciate all your guys' support and giving me some thumbs up and hearts for the video, sprinkling the love or sharing the joy, and pinning this to your page by doing the SHARE allows you then to easily find the video later. And then inspire others as well to possibly paint and craft. And as always, commenting and saying hi is so appreciated. I got paint on my sign. Because Facebook has all of these things that kind of stop us from reaching out to people and all of that. So any support you give is so appreciated. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take me out of the picture here, and we'll just get right into some painting. There we go. So I'm going to use a large flat for the background and then just a palette knife. And I've chosen more of a skinny palette knife because this painting is a little bit smaller. I've just got this really small type Christmas tree, and so using a more small pointed palette knife is a little bit easier in this case, but you can always just use this. It would just take a little bit more control to get those brush or those scrapes in around those smaller branches and stuff, but totally doable. And if this is all you have, you could just scale this guy up so that it's not so small and delicate, and then using this would make it a lot easier. All right. I'm going to start with my background, and I put just a quick little wash on my background using a khaki tan color. So I'm going to spray my surface here, grab my large flat, get a little bit of water in there, and I just want to put a light wash down. So it's reacting, it's kind of like a watercolor background. Get a little more water. So I've obviously it's the end of July, but there are a ton of Christmas in July posts and tutorials and sales happening. Hobby Lobby has Christmas out, kind of all over. So has anyone done any Christmas crafts this month? So I did a little bit darker down here where I'm going to put my surface, my ground, tabletop, whatever you want it to be. But we're going to come in with some color anyways. So that is step one, is putting our wash in. Then I'm going to get my black and burnt umber out. And I actually have black already out from a previous class. We did day 2 of our summer 2021 paint challenge today, which was the barn and sunflower. And so that's where these colors are coming from, and we're just gonna use those. They're still a little bit wet here. So I'm gonna start by placing, actually I'm gonna use a small round here, and I'm just gonna sketch in my pot where I want that to be. It's a little easier to sketch with a brush than it is with a palette knife. And then we'll determine how tall we want our tree. So I'm just gonna put my trunk in there. Alright, so now we're going to switch over to the palette knife. And if you've never used a palette knife is like icing a cake. You're putting your scrapes and you're laying your paint like this. So you're using the bottom of the knife. You hold it, see if I hold it like that. This is where the paint goes, so this is the bottom, and then this is the top. And so the bottom is where we're going to load that paint, and that's where we scrape our paint down, and that's how we use the palette knife. Okay. Let me just check everything is okay. Alright. We're going to start with our black. And when we're working on the palette knife, the other thing to take note of is we're really just working on this front end of the palette knife. We don't want to put any paint back here. We're just going to use this, the very tip of the palette knife. So I'm going to load that up with black and maybe just a little bit of the burnt umber, and we'll get our color in for our pot here. When working with a palette knife, it really forces you to Be okay with the imperfections that a palette knife is going to give you. There is no, I mean, there is some control, and you do practice and you kind of get better at controlling where the paint's going to go. I got a little paint down here, so it showed up here. But also it's just really a technique that is imperfect, and you have to be okay with that and just get past that and move on. So you'll get a funky scrape and it might not look all that great, but with that palette knife you just gotta move on and let it be. And you can let it dry and come back in and do a little bit of some fixing with it. There is that capability, but a lot of times that's just the beauty of the palette knife. Alright, so I'm going to lay in my branches up here, and to do that I'm going to use the edge of my palette knife. I'm going to just dab my edge in my burnt umber, and I'll grab just a little bit of black that I have up there. And I'm thinking where I want my branches. So I've got this big full bottom here. They kind of curve up, so I'm just going to go in on the side there. Okay, and then we'll do the other side. And I have my paper tape down. It helps me to stay in focus and in camera. But I highly recommend you rotate your piece as you're working so that you can get the right angle in when you're doing your painting. Okay, so I kind of got this one. I'm going to extend it out just a little bit more. And the palette knife just really makes it easy to do very imperfect branches and all of that. We've got these Christmas trees aren't perfect either. Got these branches here that we're going to build off of. We're just going to get a little smaller as we go up to the point where we just maybe have just one last one on the side there. So I've got about 3 branches on this side, and I've got a long, short, a little bit of a longer one, a short one, and then just a tiny one that's coming off the top there. And if they're a little thin, you can add just a little paint to the very tip of this and just kind of thicken it up a little bit. Alright, so while I've got some dark on my palette knife, I'm going to define my floor or tabletop, whatever it is. And just do a sawing motion like this. Gives us a really great edge, a line there. And then we're going to just put in, I've got still some black and brown on my palette here, so I'm going to put some shadow in here. Bring in some darkness right here. Just kind of pushing and scraping that paint around in this area. I'm going to grab some of that khaki and scrape that along the bottom here. I'm going to blend it in with that black. Put a little bit over here. And I like to try and keep my scrapes a little random, so I try and think about scraping up and down, side to side. I'm going to introduce a little bit of some burnt umber into my shadow. Warm it up just a little bit. just bring a little bit of dark burnt umber over here. If you ever get too much paint down, you can always pick it up a little bit too, or just let it dry and come back over it with that lighter color to lighten it up. Okay, let's get some green out. So I am using a holly branch green for my tree. I need a little bit more. I'm going to make 2 piles here. So I'm going to create a dark green with this small pile here, and I'm going to grab some of this burnt umber and mix it in. This is going to give me a nice dark forest green. You can always just pull a dark green from a bottle of paint too if you have a favorite. I'll just mix that up. There's something very satisfying about mixing paint. Okay. And I also want to make sure that I don't have any paint down here, so I'm going to wipe that bottom edge off. And so I've got paint on the very end of my palette knife, and I'm going to start just bringing some branches out. And so I do a little bit of pressure at the base, and then I kind of lift up and drag out. Pressing down, and we're pulling that paint, dragging that paint out away from the tree. And you'll most likely cover up most of your branches that we put in. That's okay. They were just really a guide anyways. It gives us something to attach our greenery to. So here I've gotten just a little bit too much, where my paint kind of got a little bit out of hand. So I'm going to just take it and kind of pick up some of that paint, and we'll just move it to the other side and kind of build from that. We just have maybe some thicker branches in this area. We're just going to keep going. I'm going to take some of the branches up the top here. Alright, so now that we've got our dark down, which is what we're considering the shadowy part of the tree, or the tree branches that are farthest away, we're going to go right into just that holly branch now, and we're going to lay some of that green, that brighter green, right on top. Just some quick little scrapes kind of in the same vicinity where we were. I'm not really making any big scrapes, they're just small little swipes. Just a little bit of pressure. Okay. And then I'm going to do one more layer of green. I want to bring in some light colored green, so I'm going to pull some of this green away and grab some of my white. not liking that grain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some, where's my green? I'm going to grab some of this Hauser green, medium Hauser green. It's a little bit lighter. It's kind of got an olive tone to it. I'll wipe that other color off. We'll just do a couple swipes of this color in here. And then we've got a couple different shades happening, which will help give us dimension and texture in our tree. Okay. All right. So we're going to let the tree sit now and work on our basket or our pot. And I've done a little bit of some patterns on my pot here. But before I put the pattern down, I want to add a little bit of white and black. So I'm going to make a gray. And maybe I'll just leave this one kind of more of a metal pot. Let's just make this all kind of gray. Something a little bit different here. I need just a little bit black. So I keep seeing people possibly pop in and pop out. I hope my video's okay. So if you're watching, say hi. Let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. And that we are good to go. I see funky things happening on my end, which isn't uncommon either. All right, so what do you think? The kind of silver galvanized pot or the black with the white pattern? This is a little bit brighter. We might add some pattern here. After we get our background in a little bit more, we'll see how it goes. All right, so our tree is still drying. We are going to move into our background. So I'm going to get a bunch of white out and essentially just take this white and scrape it across my surface here and messily bring it into my areas around my tree, but I'm also wanting to see some of that brown background, so I'm not getting too close. Plus I don't want to pick up the grain in my palette knife. So we're just getting just close enough to barely touch all of those pieces there. Kind of gives it a fun little bit of a glow. And this is also where it's super helpful to be able to move your paper or mixed media pad around and make it a little bit easier to work around this area. We'll see how well I can do with my hand in crazy positions. It has been so hot here lately that actually painting this Christmas tree was kind of fun. Thinking about some cooler temps. I hate to put an end to summer so quickly, but it has been just blazing hot here. And I think we have a little bit of relief from it tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Alright. So we've got this really funky, it's kind of like a plaster wall. The way that the paint is kind of sitting and working around the tree. But we're going to add a little bit more color to this. So let's grab some of that khaki and scrape that. And I'm working mostly just around the, whoops, I added some green. That's all right. Just scrape it up and we're going to go over that with another color. But what I was saying is I'm just adding some color to the edge here. Kind of framing out our little Christmas tree here. I've got khaki in there. Let's grab a little bit of this burnt umber. Scrape some of that around. Starting to get that frame built in. And we're going to do a little bit of black, not a lot. We don't want it too dark. Mixing a little bit of khaki and white together and kind of bringing in just another layer of color in here. Okay, there we go. It's starting to come together. And the last thing that we're going to do is let's add some red Christmas balls to our Christmas tree. You could do any color here. And if you could go even smaller and put these on little Christmas cards or Christmas tags and just make them maybe 2 or 3 branches with a little tiny pot. Okay, so for the ornaments, I've got a Santa red from Deco Art, and so I'll just drop some paint there and kind of move it in what would be considered a circle. It's not perfect. And I've got this excess green right here, and this is a perfect spot to kind of break up all those branches where I kind of had a little bit too much paint on my palette knife. So I'm really loading it up right here, and I'm dropping it on my paper and just moving it around into a circle. Just pushing that paint around. And let's make this one a little bit bigger. And maybe one right up here. There we go. Now I'm going to grab some white and we're going to add a little bit of snow. Kind of trying to tap a little bit of that white off so it's more of a little bits of snow here and there, not too much. My green is still pretty wet, so I'm trying to be careful to not move it around too much to get a blended, just a light green color. There we go. Just add a little bit of some highlights to our pot down here. I think I'm going to leave it plain. I like kind of this variance. Just this silver pot, kind of a galvanized old pot. And I keep putting white down because I have white too much on my knife here. Alright, I think that's it. You could definitely do some different designs with this. You could make it bigger, go smaller, you could add some different textures to the pot, you could change the pot color up. So you'll have to let me know, do you like the solid silver pot or the pattern pot better? And hopefully I'm still live because my laptop is showing me kind of dead in the water, but my phone is looking okay. So if you're commenting and I'm missing it, I am sorry. Hopefully I'll be able to see your comments after the fact. But that's a bummer if you're trying to visit with me and I don't get to see those. It's kind of a frustrating deal, but hopefully that inspires you to do a little Christmas in July. I figured I'd better do something. I'm not really big on doing Christmas in July, even though there's tons of people out there are doing that and doing crafts and all of that, but it's never been something that has caught my eye. But I thought I'd do one quick little painting in lieu of it being so hot. So here it is, close up in all its imperfection. Lots of fun scrapes. And the floor's got that really dark shadow there. Kind of, we've got some plaster wall back there. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you do paint along or catch this painting and do it later, let me know. Post a picture of your work. I'm actually going to do one more thing. We've got to add some light to our bulbs. Going to drop a little bit of white on top of these Christmas bulbs for a little bit of some reflection. But if you do paint along, share your work. If you'd like to join the Fun and Flourish group, head over to that and answer the questions. We'll get you added. We've got the tracers in there for all of our Fun and Flourish paintings. We have just a little community of artists so we can share our work and in a private group with like-minded individuals, which is nice to be able to do that. So I will let you guys go. Thanks for watching and we will chat with you later. Bye.